Apple is preparing the most unusual update in decades. According to insiders from supply chains and engineering teams, the company is actively testing the technology of partial transparency for the case and display. And if the sources are to be believed, in the coming years, we may see the first transparent iPhone in history, a device that will completely change the perception of personal gadget design. For many years, Apple has developed minimalism, glass, metal, thin bezels, neat cutouts. But transparency is a step into a completely different philosophy. It is not just a change in appearance, it is an attempt to rethink the very structure of the smartphone as an object. Insiders claim that in Apple's laboratories, new composite materials are being tested, combining ultra-strong transparent glass with flexible microelectronic layers. The main challenge is to hide internal components, or, on the contrary, make them part of the aesthetics. Because if the case becomes transparent, users will see everything: the boards, the battery, the sensors. And here, Apple, according to rumors, has taken an unusual path. Instead of hiding the electronics, engineers are developing a visually organized architecture where internal elements are arranged symmetrically and look like part of the design. In essence, the internals become decoration. The second difficulty is the display. Transparent OLED matrix technology exists, but it is still limited in brightness and energy efficiency. However, sources claim that Apple has approached serious progress in the field of micro-LED. These panels can be not only brighter and more energy efficient, but also theoretically support partial transparency modes. Imagine a device that in normal mode looks like a regular screen, but when turned off becomes almost completely transparent glass. This creates a completely new effect, a feeling of airiness, minimal physical presence of the device. But Apple, as always, is thinking not only about design. Transparency can open up new usage scenarios. For example, augmented reality mode without a headset. When you look through the device and digital information is displayed over the real world, this is no longer just a screen, it is a window into a hybrid reality. Insiders also mention a redesigned battery placement system. Classic lithium-ion blocks are difficult to make transparent. Therefore, the company may be testing thin, segmented modules distributed along the edges of the case. This allows keeping the central part of the device visually clean. If such an iPhone really comes out, it will not just be a new model, it will be a shift in design era. Once the first iPhone removed the physical keyboard. Later, Apple removed the home button. Now it is about completely rethinking the case itself. However, the question of practicality remains. How durable will a transparent smartphone be? Will it withstand drops, overheating, daily use? Sources claim that multi-layer protective coatings with nanostructures are being tested to increase scratch and impact resistance. There is also another strategic point. Apple has long been working on a spatial computing ecosystem. Vision Pro was the first step. The transparent iPhone could become an intermediate stage, a device that combines the classic smartphone with elements of augmented reality. Imagine holding a transparent device in your hand, through which you see the world. On top of this world, notifications, navigation, weather data, and messages are displayed. This is no longer just a display, it is a next-generation interface. And now add to this a next-generation chip, the hypothetical A19 or A20, built on a 2-nanometer process, more energy efficient, with an enhanced neural processor. This will allow processing complex graphic layers and AR elements without overheating. Insiders emphasize that the release may not happen tomorrow. Apple is known for refining technology for years, but the very fact that the company has approached serious progress in the field of transparent components already says a lot. It is important to understand, Apple rarely goes first with experimental solutions, but when it takes a step, it becomes an industry standard. If the transparent iPhone is released and receives a positive reaction, other manufacturers will begin to copy the concept. This could trigger a new wave of design: transparent tablets, transparent laptops, devices that look like glass panels of the future. But the most interesting question is psychological. Are users ready for such a radical change? The smartphone has already become a familiar object. It is black, glass, understandable. Transparency breaks the usual image, and perhaps this is exactly Apple's strategy: to surprise again, to create a device that evokes the wow effect again, to bring back the sense of technological wonder that existed when the first iPhone was released. If all this is confirmed, we may witness one of the most unusual redesigns in the history of consumer electronics. Not just a camera or processor update, but a fundamental reconsideration of the device's form. And then the question will no longer be how powerful the new iPhone is, but how strongly it changes the way we perceive gadgets themselves. Because transparency is not only about glass, it is about a new philosophy of human interaction with technology. But if we look even deeper, the transparent iPhone is not only about external effect, it is about a long-term direction for the development of the entire industry. Because transparency is a step toward the gradual disappearance of the device from perception. Apple has for many years been moving toward minimizing the physical interface. Buttons disappear, ports disappear, bezels shrink. The next logical step is to make the gadget itself visually less material, almost invisible. Imagine a device that in standby mode becomes almost transparent, with barely noticeable contour lines. The screen activates only where needed, and the rest remains glass. This creates the effect of a digital hologram, but without a projector or complex optics. Insiders also say adaptive transparency is being tested, where certain zones of the case can darken or become matte depending on the usage scenario. For example, when watching video, the back may automatically reduce transparency to improve contrast, and in AR mode, on the contrary, enhance the transparent effect. This is no longer just a smartphone, this is a dynamic surface. If Apple manages to bring the technology to a commercial level, it will become a new design milestone. Just as the shift from plastic cases to glass was once perceived as a premium leap, transparency can become the symbol of the next era. And most importantly, Apple knows how to turn technology into a trend. If the transparent iPhone is shown as the future of interfaces, as a bridge between the physical and digital worlds, it can set the direction for a decade ahead. And then we will remember this moment as the beginning of the era of invisible electronics. Devices that no longer dominate space, but become part of the surrounding world. The only question that remains, is the industry ready for such a radical step? Because if Apple really makes transparency mainstream, there will be no turning back. From a strategic perspective, the transparent iPhone could become a transitional device between the classic smartphone and wearable AR systems. It will retain the familiar format, but gradually accustom users to the idea of a see-through interface, where the digital layer does not replace reality, but subtly overlays it. If Apple manages to combine aesthetics, durability, autonomy, and the real benefits of transparency, it will be more than just a design experiment. It will become a new milestone for the entire category of mobile devices,